Welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a hot minute since I have released a video, and I'm sorry, y'all. I have a lot to share, but if you're new to my channel, my name is Desiree, and on my channel, I talk about many different facets of health, everything from eating, exercise, emotional well-being, you name it. It has been a while since I have released a video. And I didn't put a lot out on social media. If you follow me, maybe you're aware. If you know me personally, maybe you're aware. But I decided last year to take my health journey on another journey. And so I decided to become a health coach. So needless to say, I have just been inundated with studying and reading and just absorbing as much as I could, doing coaching sessions. But now I'm back to it. I want to put out some new content for you guys. And I recently had an incredible opportunity. I had a very good friend drive to me from like an hour and a half away, and she did a mini photo shoot for me. Actually, it was a full photo shoot. I wouldn't even say it's a mini photo shoot, but we did 4 locations, 4 different shoots, and one of those was a whole spread of food. I really wanted to showcase how you can still eat clean, eat healthier, and enjoy what you eat. And I had this concept to come up with a Mediterranean spread. I wanted to do hors d'oeuvres. I wanted to do something that would travel well. So I actually decided to make a soup. I wanted to make breads, I wanted to make desserts, I wanted to have some kind of delicious beverage. So what you're about to see is 2 days of me putting food together for this photo shoot. And it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed being back in the kitchen and doing some recording. And some of it was a labor of love. I have this thing about charcuterie boards. I love charcuterie boards. My girlfriend and I, we just love to have them. And so I wanted to incorporate that in as well. But, you know, I tend to just buy things that are pre-made from Whole Foods or from my natural foods market. But this time, I wanted to make my own crackers. Now, y'all know your girl do not enjoy baking. I love to cook. I'll be in the kitchen all day long if you let me cook. I don't like to bake. It's hard for me. You have to follow rules. I don't like to follow rules, but is what it is. I decided to try my hand at a few things, and I was just over the moon with how some of this came out. So if you're interested in my Mediterranean healthy spread, keep watching. Well, it is Tuesday morning and I'm getting ready to go grocery shopping. I have prepared my list for the food that I'm going to be providing. Sunday, I'll be doing the photo shoot, and for the photo shoot, I'll be providing an actual meal for my friends who are going to be helping me with this photo shoot. I've got this really extensive list that I've just put together, and I am going to put it all up on my board and then take a picture of it. And then I'm going to go grocery shopping and get everything. Okay, so I've got everything already listed here on my board. Usually I try and put everything in the order that it is in the grocery store, but I ran out of room. So I've got everything listed here. I'm going to take a picture and off to the store I go. I'm in the kitchen. I am finally getting started. A little later than I would like, but it's okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's my plan anyway. I can move at my own rhythm. So I am going to start with the Mediterranean soup first. When I make my Mediterranean soup, I like to make it colorful and nutrient dense. Things that I like in that particular soup are artichokes. So I'll be slicing up some artichokes. And I love to put garbanzo beans in there as well. And normally I'll use Roma tomatoes and I'll take out the seeds because my husband can't have seeds. But I'm making this food for other people and he's not going to have any of it this time. So I decided to do something I've always wanted to do, which is I am using a bunch of smaller tomatoes. And I'm using different colors and textures and sizes. That's really my preference. So we're going to see how it goes. I've got some celery diced, onions. I'm going to be using my trusty bone broth, and I will be putting in some garlic as well as kale. I've already chopped up my kale. So I tried to do what I could ahead of time, and then I've got containers for bagging it up. And of course, I have already cooked my chicken, shredded my chicken, done. So I'm going to put everything in the pot and get going. While my soup is simmering, I am going to cook up some bacon. I have another little hors d'oeuvre that I'm going to be putting together that I've never made. So hopefully that will work out okay, but I am going to be making bacon for it. I don't eat a lot of bacon. One, because it is a processed food. Two, because it's generally higher in sodium. And I try to keep things pretty close to the source. But I also am a practical person. Not everybody avoids all processed foods. And I like bacon, but I like it in small amounts. So when I do get bacon, I get this sugar-free, lower sodium. It is a buck or two more depending upon where you get it, but I like it. It tastes good and it makes me feel better. Now that my celery and my garlic and my onions are nice and soft, I'm going to go ahead and add in the rest of my ingredients. So I am going to add in the kale first. Put it right on top. Going to add my pre-shredded chicken. The other thing about my pre-shredded chicken is that I always add water to it to keep it soft and moist, because I had to put it in the fridge for a little while and I didn't want it to dry out. Now I'm going to top it off with the rest of my bone broth. Now I'm going to add my tomato sauce. I'm going to add my chickpeas. I'm going to add sea salt. I'm going to add some more garlic powder. I'm going to add some onion powder. And because I never, hardly ever make a soup without it, a little bit of cumin. I have diced up my artichokes. I love artichokes. I love them, I think, partly because they are salty, but also because they put me in the mind of noodles. So I'm going to add that as well. And I am going to wait to add my tomatoes for a little bit. I want this to simmer while I'm cooking up the bacon, and then my soup is done. It's on the stove. I've already cooked my bacon, and I crumbled it, and obviously I didn't use the entire pack. I only used about 5 slices, so the kids got the rest. I might have had a piece or two, you know. So now I'm going to make the low-carb mini bacon cheese balls with chives. And I realized something that I needed to do was to print out all my recipes for this weekend. So I've got all my stuff ready to go. This is the one I'm working on. I've already done my prep work. So I've got shredded cheese, finely shredded. I've got very finely chopped pecans. I've got chopped bacon, chives, and cream cheese. And I put it on top of my stove while I was cooking so that it would get nice and soft. So I'm gonna mix the cheeses together, mix in the bacon, the chives. Theory is I'm gonna scoop out little bits at a time and then roll it into the pecans. We're gonna see what happens. I got wish me luck balls. It actually says that you would get 12. So I'm thinking that I must have made mine just a little bit smaller, and I think that they're perfectly a right size. So you can see what they look like. Delicious. Now, if I wanted to be extra, I could eat one now, but I'm not gonna eat one. They look beautiful. I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. So I'm gonna stick them in the fridge, and I'm gonna move on to the next thing. Up, focaccia bread. I have made it before, but it's been a minute. So I'm gonna follow the rules. You know how I feel about baking. I love baked goods. I love to eat them. I just don't love to make them. But it is what it is, and I'm gonna make it, and it's gonna be amazing today. So I'm gonna be using coconut flour as well as almond flour. I'm gonna be using rosemary. I'll be chopping some up and then sprinkling some on top. I will be using some salt in the mixture, and then I'll be topping it with, of course, sea salt. I've got olive oil, but the key ingredients to this, besides eggs and egg whites, is whey protein powder. So whey protein powder is specifically required for this recipe. We're gonna cross our fingers and hope that it comes out as well as my last batch did. Wish me luck. This recipe calls for fresh rosemary. Now again, I like to be practical. If you have to use dried, then use what you got. But I really wanted this meal to be as authentic as possible with the whole Mediterranean vibe. So I got fresh and I've chopped it up, and then I've got some more that I'm gonna be sprinkling on top. Y'all, if you could smell it, it's amazing. But you want to put 2 good heaping tablespoons into your batter, and then you want to have more to sprinkle on top. Now, I have put my dough onto my baking sheet, and I actually, believe it or not, I do measure it out. It calls for 9 by 12. So that's pretty close, pretty close. I like mine slightly thicker, so it's maybe a 1/4 inch shorter or smaller, but for the most part, it's there. So the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna grease my hands. I could do it with oil, which I actually prefer to do, or I can do it with water, then sea salt, and then sprinkle across the rosemary. So I'm just gonna put a little oil in my hands, and I'm gonna let it fall over the bread, because to me, that's fine. It makes them more better. I'm gonna take my fingers, I'm just gonna put little holes. This is kind of what makes the bread like focaccia bread. I rinsed my hands, and now I'm gonna put some sea salt. And now I'm gonna put some rosemary that I had left over. I'm gonna just sprinkle it on top. So I try to make sure that I've got rosemary over pretty much all of it. So if you slice it, you're gonna have rosemary on it. Okay, so this is gonna go in the oven at 325, and I believe, what's my recipe say? 20 to 25 minutes. It came out of the oven, and it looks beautiful. Look how beautiful. It's not super thick. I like it a little thicker, but I'm gonna have a few people I'm feeding tomorrow, so I wanted to make sure there was plenty, and it smells amazing. I let it cool, and I cut them into pieces. It turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I've washed my hands. So you can see it's nice and thick. It's beautiful on top. Smells amazing. So I'm going to transfer it over to a baking sheet. I'm going to cover it, and I'm done with that project. And then I'm going to move on to the next thing. Hang with me, all. It's getting late, but I've got some more things I really want to make. I could skip them, but I really don't want to. It's really important to me to get certain things, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to attempt to make a specific type of cracker that I've never made before. And this is a low-carb seeded flaxseed meal cracker. And it's going to have hemp hearts in it. I got these online. And chia seeds, ground flax seeds. It calls for toasted sesame seeds, but I don't have any. So I'm going to use my everything but the bagel crunch seasoning, rosemary, onion powder, garlic powder, some salt, and also grated Parmesan. So I'm going to put it all together, see if I can formulate a dough. I don't have a round cookie cutter, so I'm gonna use one of these little glasses that my husband got from a DJ job he used to do, and we're gonna see if it turns out. Y'all know I don't like to bake, but I've come this far. I'm gonna keep going. Hang tight. Well, I got all the ingredients together, and wouldn't you know, I was just a tad bit short on the sweetener, and I had to be creative. This is what happens to me. This is why I don't like baking, because then I have to be creative, and when I'm creative, my recipe doesn't work. But we're gonna have hope. We're gonna have only positive expectations. We're going for it. So as you can see, I've got it in a nice little ball. I'm gonna put it between 2 pieces of parchment, which I have sprayed with olive oil spray. I'm gonna roll it out to the desired thickness. I'm gonna attempt to use this little cup, but I am not going to remove the pieces because the instructions specifically say it's brittle and it could fall apart. So we're gonna see what happens. It went fine. It went fine. I don't think I should roll them out any thinner because then they will completely fall apart. But I was concerned about making them too thick because then they might be chewy or crumbly. So again, I've never made these before. We're gonna see how it turns out, but it's nice and flat. And I'm going to use my little cup and we're gonna see what happens. You know, I have trouble following the rules. I tried so hard to follow the rules. Here's my challenge. I don't like to waste anything. And so there was all this waste, and she says not to break them apart, but they came apart so easy. So I put another sheet of parchment paper out, and I just kept rolling and rolling and rolling, and I used this little tool, and before I knew it, I got all these. Now I have one that's kind of a weird shape, and that's the leftover, but it's like this much. So I am gonna take my cup and kind of press them down a little bit, and I'm gonna sprinkle some salt on top, put them in the oven. I'm gonna turn off the oven, and then I'm going to let them dry even more. We'll see what happens. Moving on to the next thing. So I am gonna be making another cracker, but I didn't want any kind of seed in it, and I didn't want it to have a cheesy flavor because I'm going to have cheese and other things, and we have the Cheeseballs. So I have decided I'm going to use a flavor that I've actually not used yet, and this is my Garlic Lovers Flavor God. And I thought about doing a cheese flavor, but I really just was drawn to this. So it's got a lot of really good stuff in it, and it is sugar-free. A lot of people don't know that some seasoning actually has either additional salt or additional sugar. So it's really important to read the labels. So I'm going to put this in here as well. I'm going to be adding an egg and a half, which I thought was weird. And then I'm going to roll it out, and we're going to see how it goes down. Again, I'm not a baker, but I'm going for it. I'm done rolling out my dough, and I didn't follow the rules again. I know, y'all are at home thinking, she cannot follow the rules. No, this is why I don't bake. The rules say to divide the dough in half, put it on parchment, cook half, bake half, and then do it again for the other half. I don't understand why. My pan is big enough, so I'm going to do it because I wanna. And as Tabitha Brown says, it's my business. So if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out, but that's what I'm gonna do. So I have topped it with some sea salt, and I cut it into squares. My last ones are round. I want it square this time. Hopefully that will happen. I used a pizza cutter, took my time, and I think it looks pretty good. So we'll see what happens. I'm gonna pop it in the oven. Right now I'm waiting for the other crackers to come out. I had to turn off the oven and let them sit in there and crisp up a little bit. I got 2 more minutes on that. Then I'm gonna put the oven back on, get this in. Once this comes out, I've got one more thing I'm gonna make tonight, and that's the dessert. Then I'm gonna save the other 2 things for in the morning. So hopefully I'll have that done. And the cheese balls are set and ready to go. And I've got them on this lovely little tray. I've just taken the round crackers out of the oven. Wow. Like, wow. I'm gonna try this little one and see what happens. Wow. Wow. My crackers are pulled apart. I went rogue and decided to do something in addition to the other dessert. I happen to have a pomegranate that was just sitting there, and I have some Lily's dark, or actually they're milk chocolate. So I'm gonna make little hearts, and I'm gonna do chocolate pomegranate clusters. We're gonna see how it goes. It turned out so cute. I put them in little heart silicones. I'm gonna pop them in the fridge and let them set, and I'm gonna work on the last dessert. When I'm done with that dessert, the crackers will go back in the oven. I'll clean up, and I'm going to bed. In the home stretch for the night. So I am going to be making a chocolate chip cookie cheesecake recipe. I usually make it in a tray, but I've decided that I want little individual ones. So I'm going to attempt to put them in silicone liners and in my little muffin tin. And that way I have perfectly portioned 12 of them ready to go. So wish me luck. We'll see how it turns out. I'm taking a slightly different approach. Since I have 12 silicone cups, I decided to make 12 little balls. That way I've got them pretty much portioned out, and then I've got more in the bowl here that I'm going to be sprinkling on top. So I want to make sure that I have plenty of cookie dough for all 12. We'll see if it works. I think that'll do it. I've got them in my muffin tin, and I'm going to pop it in the oven. And I think, I always forget, we're going to be baking it for about 10 to 12 minutes. Then I'm going to make the filling. Then I'm going to take the rest of my dough, sprinkle it on top, bake it some more, and be done. I've got everything in the tin. Everything is stuffed, ready to go. And I forgot that I always do tend to have a little extra, so I made my husband his own little cookie. I'm going to stick it in the oven and hope that it turns out. And then I'm going to bed. They're done. I just took them out of the oven, and I will hold them up so you can see what they look like. I should be able to put them in a container, and I'm going to just put them just as is in a round container in the refrigerator and let them set up all night long. And then tomorrow I'm going to attempt to take the silicone wrappers off. We'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, I'm done for the night. Sunday morning, and I'm back in the kitchen, and I probably should have made this earlier, but it took me some time to get moving this morning. So the last thing for me to make is spinach and feta pinwheels. Now it's tricky because I'm going to have to reheat them later, but I really wanted to make them. This is something I've never made before, so this is another first. I have tried fathead dough in the past, probably a couple years ago, and I just couldn't seem to get the vibe down. So I'm going to attempt it again. I should have enough time to finish this, clean up, get ready for the photo shoot, and then serve the food later. So right now I am cooking my spinach. I've got everything else I need, my feta, onion, cheeses, we're good to go. So last thing, almost there. I have microwaved my cheese, and it looks like this. Some fathead dough calls for cream cheese, but this one did not, which I thought was really interesting. So I'm going to add this into my mixture of coconut flour. This particular recipe calls for coconut flour. It's got xanthan gum as well, and baking powder, and it's going to call for eggs. So I'm going to mix everything into the big bowl. I'm going to put it on a sheet, roll it out flat, and then add my ingredients. I'm almost there. So I've got my dough ready to go. I've got my feta and spinach, and I actually added onions. And I used a Mediterranean feta cheese in this because I just really wanted that Mediterranean feel. I'm going to attempt to get this down, flat, fill it, roll it, cut it, bake it. So I've got my filling on the dough. And yes, I'm wearing this because I did actually measure out my dough, and I used a pizza cutter to cut off the edges and to like expand it and do all the things. It's been a process. This is why I don't bake, but I think it's going to be worth it. So I'm going to attempt to roll it, cut it, put it in the oven. I'm almost there. I can feel it, y'all. I'm almost there. I'm in love. It was a labor of love. I'm not even gonna lie. And I almost chickened out. I almost didn't do it because y'all know I don't bake well. But your girl, Mom, dog, I did it. Look. Oh, they're moving. But they're so beautiful. And the recipe is supposed to yield like 16. So I've got 12 here. I had a little piece on the end that I just cut off because it was just not even. And it gave me 3 more, so 15 total. And I'm going to save these 3. I'm going to attempt, I put them in parchment paper to put them in the freezer, and I'm going to hold on to them because my bestie's coming next week, and I want her to try my spinach rolls. So I have melted some butter, put it on top, did a little sprinkle some sea salt, in the oven it goes, and we are done. We are done. While I'm letting the spinach and feta pinwheels bake, I've decided I was struck with a little bit of inspiration. I had some rosemary left and some olive oil, and I'm going to take these along as well so that we can dip the focaccia bread in it. And I have this amazing balsamic vinegar, and this is my favorite, fig. So I'm gonna take this as well, and I'll put this in this little jar, and that way we'll have some dipping sauces for our bread as well. I'm smelling the feta, and it smells amazing. I smell the spinach, and it smells amazing. My house smells amazing. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I will start baking more. Praise Jesus, I didn't ruin them. They look beautiful. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. They really are gorgeous. It was worth it. It was worth every bit of it. I will so be making them again. They are gorgeous. I'm going to put together their charcuterie board because that's happening as well. That's what the crackers were for. And then I am going to take my shower and get myself ready. I cannot wait for you all to see this incredible Mediterranean meal. So we made it. And it is Sunday. We are more than halfway through the shoot, but I have already done the food. All the pictures for the food are done. And everything that I put together is low carb, whole foods, gluten-free, soy-free, galore. So I think it turned out pretty well. We're gonna be grubbing down in just a few minutes. And if you want to come look at all this amazing stuff, y'all saw me making the labors of love, the crackers by hand. I'm really glad I decided to go with the pomegranate hearts because I think it adds something really special to the table. And then we've got our lovely mocktails. Blackberry, I think they're what? Blackberry, lime, mojito mocktails with mint. Perfect. I couldn't be happier. Well, I hope you enjoyed what you saw. I definitely enjoyed making it. And be keeping an eye out because I'm going to be putting out some more content here very soon. I've got some more ideas, but if there's things that you want to see that I haven't put out, make sure to comment below. Below, I will be linking everything I made as well as modifications because you know, again, I have a problem with following rules. So I always got to add a little bit of myself in there. So make sure you're paying attention there. Also, if you're not subscribed to my channel, please do that and turn on the notifications. That way you're notified every time I put out a new video. I'm so grateful that I had this opportunity to do this photo shoot. It was a lot of fun, and let me tell you, the food was delicious. We definitely grubbed down on that. Thank you so much for joining me today, watching my video. As always, go out there, find your joy, spread joy, keep a little for yourself, and do you, boo.